The crowd response to him was cool. The Hall of Fame game, I'd never been to one as a person. You'd never been one either, right? And you've seen it
No.
your whole
Yep.
life, but you've
seen
never
him
been
on
to
TV.
one.
Sure, of course.
It's hard to wrap your head around, even though it's mostly backups. But like Aaron Rodgers is on the field, Deshaun Watson's on the field, like they're all there.
Yes.
NBC had a catch with Sauce Gardner, who was throwing balls into the crowd.
No way.
And so he had a catch and a throwback, which was pretty cool. I said, well, you could look, dude, you've been picked off by Sauce Gardner. So that's a good job out of you. Miles was doing it at the other end, throwing the ball into the crowd. So that was very cool. But to be that close to NFL players is a really unique experience, to see the game that close, even if it is backup players. So there was that part of it. And then there were these guys who flashed and some disappointments on the field. From just big picture, you also had the experience of calling a game with Jim Donovan again.
Yeah, which is great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys were so good. We left in the second half, and you guys have such a great chemistry, and there's especially in a game like that doesn't mean much. I was dying at the stuff around the lights going out. I was absolutely dying at the comedy between the two.
It was wild. Like,
I know
what's going on right now
here. Yeah, it was great. What was your night like?
It was great. You know, it's cool because it's such an intimate stadium, and I thought from the booth standpoint, I've never had a better view. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Gibby, but like you could see so well. You could see everything. And it was actually this was one of the first games ever where I didn't even really need a monitor because I felt like I could see the game so clearly from where we were. So it was great to be that close to the field and to be able to see everything. Obviously, Jim was awesome and just electric as he always is. We did have some fun. Jim, you didn't get to hear this, but I'm sure Gibbe's got the clip somewhere. Jim was singing at one point an Irish song about Kelly, a man named Kelly, when John Kelly was running the ball. So we had, honestly, it was a great night. And being on the field earlier, I got to see a bunch of people from around the league. Talked to a couple pro Hall of Famers that were walking around. Tony Dungy was down there. It was neat, and I got a chance to talk with a lot of our coaches, a lot of our players, especially the guys that weren't playing, and ask them and pick everybody's brain, who's somebody you're excited to see tonight. And I got a bunch of different answers, and, well, a lot of those guys did pretty well. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was a very common answer amongst a lot of people, and, boy, he was a lot of fun and was exactly what I thought he was going to be. Honest to goodness, everybody, if you've been listening, you know that I've been big on DTR. He was great. And it was just fun. I thought it was a fun night for the Browns. It's great to win that game. It feels better than if, you had not won it. I think you saw your draft picks look good.
Tillman looked good.
Tillman is good. Yeah. DeJuan Jones looked good. DeJuan Jones played the entire game and looked very good at right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he was, upon draft, I think the term we used was just a giant piece of clay that, and boy, he's that both absolutely, literally, and also, in terms of the analogy, he just swallowed people up. Just did. Yeah. And I think the coolest thing about him is the shape he came into camp at. I mean, we talked about that when you were down at the Greenbrier. Like, he was sick out of the gates, but, like, he came into camp in great shape. That could be an incredible find and fit because he's got first-round talent. That was never the issue.
Yeah.
So if he could be properly motivated and play the way that he played last night, not against the T.J. Watt, but he's a monster of a man to try to get around, and he has good technique. He is coachable, and he's incredibly athletic. He was a tremendous basketball player. So there's a lot of boxes he checks.
But the Jets had a lot of guys out there last night who are people that can get to the quarterback. They had Will McDonald was out there quite a bit. He was their first-round pick this year. Bryce Huff is a professional pass rusher. Jermaine Johnson, their first-round pick from a year ago, he played in this game. Fedi Adenabo, former Brown, had a 7-sack season. So he was working against guys that do know how to rush the passer, that either are first-round rookies or second-year players or veterans who have made their living out of getting after the quarterback and have been able to stay in the league for a few years. So I thought he looked very good, held up well. You saw Siaki Ika make a big play in the middle of the line, a couple where he just kind of got that push and stonewalled the team. So your rookies look good. You had young undrafted free agent guys flying all over the field, Diabate and Charlie Thomas. Charlie Thomas delivered one of the it almost looked like he was in fast forward where he just went to the sideline, delivered the huge hit that knocked the ball free from the Jets running back. Hassan Hall showed a nice burst on one of his runs. I think you saw a lot of young guys out there competing and looking, honest to goodness, pretty good. Sam Kamara had a nice day as well, inside, outside on that defensive line. It was fun. It was a fun game. And I think that it was a little listless in the first half, to be perfectly honest. You know, the 2 turnovers, the missed field goal from Cade York. You were not feeling good about that. Special teams all in all. I think Bubba Ventrone's going to be
He's not going to be pleased with what happened.
No, he's not.
The return game, the missed field goal.
Yeah, all of it. No, he's not going to be pleased at all, and justifiably so. That was kind of the 2 turnovers and the special teams. Those were the downsides. Everything else felt pretty on as good as positive for the Cleveland Browns, and it was cool to see a random thing like DTR to Austin Watkins, which was in his first team period. He hit him for a touchdown. That was his last kind of throw of his first team period with the Browns when he finally got some action at the Greenbrier, and then to see that carry the game, and it's DTR to Watkins on just an absolute dime. I don't know if you've seen video of that. You're in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, an absolute dime. Great route, great throw, all of it. It was fun night, and being by Jim, you know, the time flies in these. I think for me personally, you know, I'll echo Mike Tirico. He goes, you know, you're always excited for the preseason until you have to do the prep for it, and then you're like, let's get to the regular season.
Yeah, right.
And so I would.
Your boards. You tweeted out your boards. It's just
it's insane.
Yeah.
And it was good though because I'm able to then. I don't need to know much about the Jets guys, but I can have a little note about them here or there. But most of the focus is on the Browns, and I think that, you know, doing preseason a year ago and then obviously the whole regular season, I felt so much more comfortable this year, kind of balancing the need. I can just get a little bit out each time. Don't have to get everything out in once. And I think that was something that I learned from last year's preseason to this year's. And then also, you know, it's partly about the game, but it's also partly about just telling the stories of who these guys are.
Yeah, and I also the other thing that you're doing is you have, you know, in the preseason you have a lot of fun you can have as well, right? So that part of it helps. So that that carried through in the end. Now we did have, okay, all right. The this just coming in. This is from Gibby. Where is this from? This reporting is this? Did we release this?
Coach is literally talking to the media now. We'll have it here in just a few minutes.
All right. So Coach is talking to the media right now, and apparently we have an injury to our receiving core. Wide receiver Dalen Baldwin will miss significant hamstring injury. Will miss time with a significant hamstring injury. We'll add wide receivers to the roster.
Yeah. So you know, Dalen Baldwin when he came off, I thought it's obviously a significant hamstring injury, so it must be really bad. But the way that he came off the field and was slamming his helmet, I thought maybe it was an Achilles or an ACL, or he knew it was something. Whatever it was, he obviously knew it was serious. And so Dalen Baldwin, guy who was on the practice squad last year, it just gives another opportunity for, you know, Austin Watkins. I think Austin Watkins could end up being one of the surprises here that makes not the team per se, but that makes certainly the practice squad. You know, we can go through kind of, if you want to, at some point, you know, we got plenty of time to do it, but position group by position group, kind of my takeaways on the game. But Dalen Baldwin going down is tough. I do think the Browns are going to be making some roster moves after this game. I think that there will be some people that they will either, you know, waive injured or, you know, decide to cut. I know that there's a report that we've signed an offensive tackle. We need one. I mean, the reason that DeJuan Jones played all the snaps was, one, they wanted to see him, but two, I don't know if people realize we had 3 tackles active yesterday.
That's true.
Because Conklin was not out there and Jed Wills wasn't out there. Hudson started at left tackle, and then you moved to, and then at right tackle was DeJuan Jones. He stayed there. And then the only other tackle that played in the game was Hunter Tedford. So we had 3 tackles. So on some level, we're incredibly fortunate, you know, that we got through the game without an injury to tackle, because had we lost a tackle, now we're down to 2. You lose 2 tackles, we're down to 1.
That's right.
Which is possible. But we played a game with 3 tackles, played a game with 4 linebackers, which was pretty wild. But I think all in all, a very solid performance. I think that, again, special teams you want to clean up, the turnovers, you know, Anthony Schwartz.
All right, let's do positives, and then we'll get to some negatives. The number one positive for you, and there's a lot of ways you can go here, but I think in terms of big picture, there's a couple of clear answers. What was your biggest? Give me 2 or 3 biggest positive takeaways from last night, individually. Players, not necessarily. Not necessarily like Schwartz's defense was obviously much more aggressive.
I was going to get.
That'd be at the top. We'll get to that
They were
too.
2 for 12 on third down. They were 0 for 10.
It was different. It was noticeably different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the way that these guys competed. I mean, Tarv, you think about the bottom of a roster to have the way that those corners are ready to play, the way the safeties are ready to play, that reflects very well on the new safety coach from Banda. Brandon Lynch had his corners ready to go. Everybody I talked to was pumped to see Caleb Biggers. So I'll give you, there's one, kind of an under-the-radar one. Caleb Biggers played phenomenally well for the Browns. Number 39, he was scrappy. He was he was glued to the hips of the people he was covering.
I don't know if did you guys have a monitor up there? You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys see the on the interception that seals it? Did you see Schwartz mouthing to the official?
Boy, did I! I was in Jim's ear about it.
Well, because there was the
he had a smile on his face like a Cheshire cat, but what he was mouthing to the official was
"Ball don't lie," something to that effect.
Oh no!
Something before predicated after with off, and then a big smile like it's preseason. Like, really?
Well,
we're going to enforce this?
And then the
guy
was
interference penalty was one of the worst calls. I said it on the
he
broadcast.
wasn't even mad. He was just
was
really
mad about that.
like it's sure, but it's like a preseason game. Like, you're going to penalize because my guys went out to celebrate.
Oh, after the celebration.
After the celebration.
So he stood right in front of the official at one point. He was booing him.
Yeah.
He was literally booing him.
Yeah. So good. So great.
Yeah. Which is and quite.
But his guys had
should.
juice, man. They had a lot of juice.
A lot of juice. So
I liked it.
I'd give Biggers and Charlie Thomas on the defense. That sideline to sideline, that hit that he put on was awesome to see. And then offensively, look, it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That's who I wanted to see the most come to the game. That was a lot of people in this organization were very excited to see him. DTR and I have kind of developed a very nice relationship since I interviewed him. Pac-12 guys, obviously. California. He's obviously from Vegas, but spent some time out there in California and L.A. And so I remember I talked to him at the Green Bar, and he hadn't been getting any reps, and we were in the cafe, and he looked like kind of down. I was like, dude, your time's going to come, and I know you're going to ball. Like, just be good. And he really was appreciative of that. And then the first day after he got the reps, he walked by the cafe, saw me, was like,
yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So when the game ended, I went down into the locker room, and he just happened to be walking out. And I mean, he was dressed like, I couldn't wear that, but he was dressed like a star would dress when it's something just like fashion, like kind of out of left field.
Yeah.
But I saw him, and we had a hug, and I was like, I'm so happy for him. Like, dude, that was great. And he just looked at me, and it was just like, yeah, that's what I do. And I was just like, I love this kid. I mean, you talk about swag.
Yeah.
The velocity on the football was night and day to what we saw in the first half, and that's no knock on Kellen Mond. D-Char just has a very nice arm, his legs, his energy. You could tell. We've unfortunately been in with the Cleveland Browns in my time. You can tell when a team believes in their quarterback and when they do not. And I thought that there was a big difference in the energy in the first half versus the second he came on the field. Mm-hmm. And you could tell everybody believed him. He goes out there, leads them down. The touchdown comes because he springs Demetric Felton, his backfield mate at UCLA, which was cool to see them.
Ago, yeah.
Yeah, 2019 they were together. When
Dorian would have been a freshman or sophomore.
He played 5 years there, so he would have been
maybe in his second year.
Yeah. In that year, Felton caught 55 balls, led the Pac-12 in all-purpose yards. But you see a young quarterback go out there and make a block that springs him. He came over. He was mobbed by his teammates. Mm-hmm. It was awesome. We saw MJ Emerson after the game tweet out a picture of DTR being like, this guy is a dude. Like,
Players
recognized game. They know. They've known since we were at the Greenbrier. I can assure you of that. They probably knew before that, but certainly coming out of the Greenbrier, there was a lot of talk about DTR. And so I thought his energy was simply spectacular. It's awesome to see a guy like Austin Watkins come in, get an opportunity, and absolutely make the most of it. Had a couple of very nice catches in the game, including the touchdown. Tillman, the route on 3rd and 13, and it was a good ball from Kellen Mond, although I feel like you got to complete that when a guy's open by 20 yards. Yeah. Well, he was getting held, just quietly slapped the guy's arm off. He flies out of screen, puts foot in the ground, comes back, and makes a 20-yard catch on 3rd and 13. And to Mond's credit on that drive, I think they had 3 different third down conversions and a 4th down conversion. And then he finished that one with a touchdown, which was nice to see him kind of end with that confidence. But it felt like the ball had to be pretty close to the line of scrimmage for him throwing it. But I loved what I saw out of Cedric Tillman as well. DTR, though, DTR is the show. And then, honestly, what stood out to me as well was the depth of our offensive line. And you could say DeJuan Jones, who's the second stringer, he was phenomenal in this game. Drew Forbes, done. Then you get to the third team, and you got Whippler, who was very good at Ohio State. But next to him, Colby Gossett was out there dominating people. And this guy's played 36 games, started 9. He was in Atlanta last year, running that Arthur Smith offense, making starts for them. And he's on our third team as a guard. I think he was our highest graded offensive player, as a matter of fact, or certainly, I think highest graded offensive player in the game by Pro Football Focus. So just fun to watch anyway. The whole thing. I'm excited.
I like the way that I like that you got to end on the high note. It would have been had it come out guns a-blazing with DTR, and then
totally
you got to
different
end
feel
on a very, very high note. So
yes.
yeah, DTR, DeJuan Jones, Tillman, like that jumps out to me positive. Negatively, I mean, as positive we are about the defense, the negatives would be special teams across the board. The return game, the coverage, it was not what Bubba Ventrone is going to stand as a standard in any way, shape, or form, and I'm guessing he's quite hot today.
Yeah, I bet he's unhappy. And it kind of started right the opening kickoff right through Hassan Hall's hands. Now it's just a touchback, doesn't affect anything. We did have one nice return. Felton had that nice return up the right side. That's called back
by the way. I thought Felton had a nice
he
game.
looked
good,
confident, and I wonder it even looked different to me once DTR got in there for him.
Agree.
And I don't know if there was some comfort level, obviously, they have together, and I'm sure there was, but he had a spring in his step. I thought he did look very, very good, running it, catching it, and making the case that, yeah, I can be this third back. I mean, it's clear Jerome Ford's the number 2. Jerome Ford did not dress.
No, but Felton is making a case to be on the roster.
Yeah, as a third back.
As a third back.
Yeah. And John Kelly's solid.
Boy, he is. He really is solid.
He's a preseason stud.
He is. You put him in.
Year.
I just wonder sometimes, like, if he ever just got on a roster, what would stop him from being productive? Like, I don't know. It feels like he could go.
Yeah.
But
special teams, to your point, missed field goal. Like, and
I got to tell you, like, that one, buddy, was that's tough. That's tough out of Cade York, because that was one that everybody remembers last year. Everybody knows where he was drafted, and with a kicker, you worry about the mentality.
Of course,
more than anything. I mean, it's
and he hadn't missed. He did not miss at the Greenbrier. He did not miss.
But this was a crowd, and this was a game,
and you got to put it in, and then to have that juxtaposed by the former Pro Bowler, All-Pro Greg the Leg Zerline, who went 54, bajoom, 53, bajoom, 40-something. And I mean, the deviation from the center of the stanchion was maybe a yard at most on all three of them. They were all just like
bombs
right down the middle. And so, Cade York, 75% as a rookie, 6 of 8 from 40 to 49. We saw him miss from 49 yesterday. Like, we can't have that. That's not going to work. And at some point, you want to see this get going again. And remember, he started his career 8 for 8 last year, and then it kind of fell off against Chargers, missed the 2 in that game. At some point, you need to see the consistency before you can be totally comfortable. There's too much at stake this season.
Way too much. It's razor thin margin.
The rope's got to be short. I'm not calling for competition or anything like that right now. I still believe in Cade York.
I'll give it a week.
The rope is short.
Yeah,
he goes out there and has another miss
next Friday.
Then now you're thinking, okay, we've got to start considering options, because this season's too important. There's too much talent, and there will be multiple games that will come down to kicks most likely, and a kick at some point in the game. Not even at the final buzzer. And we've got to feel like. And nobody's Justin Tucker other than Justin Tucker, but there are plenty of darn good kickers out there that when they go out there, you feel confident the ball's going through the center and you're not worried about it.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to, Nathan, what you just said. Like, it doesn't come down to necessarily the final buzzer. Like, the Jets had the ball at the end of the game last night. Mm-hmm. If he had made that field goal earlier in the game, it's an 8-point game.
That's what I said at the broadcast. I said, this is a totally different situation. We could lose now, whereas before, worst-case scenario, had he made that field goal.
It's a preseason game, but
6 and a 2.
It's the same thing.
It's not a preseason game to him.
Shouldn't
he's
be.
the only one, right? Yeah, there's no difference.
Charlie was out there. Corey's holding.
Corey's becoming a weapon, too, by the way. That
directional
punt, 58 yards, was a thing of beauty. And even his touchback, while you're sad at the touchback, was still a net 45. It was a 65-yard punt.
Cade's got to go. Not go, leave. He's got to go make the kick. Go make him.
Yes.
Time to make him.
Be great.
Go be what you were drafted to be.
This guy was 14 of 18 from 50-plus in college.
I know.
In college.
I know. Anthony Schwartz.
It just feels kind of like it's inevitable, right? It's the end of the rope and the end of the road for him. And it's a shame because it was a third-round pick, and so that's an asset that you really wanted to get something out of. There's no doubt he has speed, but he's just unreliable with the football. Mm-hmm. And whether that's running it, putting it on the ground as he did, whether that's catching it, although he did have one nice catch yesterday on a comeback route, he's unreliable. And the fact that he's playing in the fourth quarter, that tells you where he is right now. The guy that I, honest to goodness, am more concerned about, because I believe that he will be on the 53-man roster, is David Bell. To me, And I said this during the broadcast, and then he actually did get his, I think, lone catch of the game right after this. I go, David Bell, I feel like, in a game like this, maybe dominating is the wrong word, but felt like he should have been a go-to guy that was open and catching the ball all the time. He had 2 catches for 6 yards. And, I mean, that's on 4 targets, or 2 targets, I'm sorry, 2 catches, 6 yards. Still, 6 yards, 3 yards target.
He's just not that presence.
There's no
presence to him.
And there feels like there's just no speed.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand, and I've talked to a couple of people about this, it's hard to reconcile. His time speed would have been alarming. But remember, Jarvis ran a 4.7.
There's a difference between speed, though, and quickness. Like, you can not have top-end speed but be quick. Jarvis was ultra quick his spots. Never got caught. So he might not test a 40, but he also always got open.
No doubt. But David Bell, what's hard is his tape would have led you to believe what he did against, the top competition in the Big Ten and his ability to hit big plays down the field would have led you to believe that this was a guy who was played faster than his time speed, and that has not translated. And so this is a receiver room now that, we're going to need to see Jakeem Grant. Jakeem Grant's got over 1,000 yards in his career. We're going to need to see him play some receiver. Hopefully we get Goodwin back. I think Jalen Darden, I don't know that we'll see him before maybe Philly. I don't know what the exact time frame on it, but it didn't sound like his return was imminent. And he's the other guy that has juice, right? He is a true athlete, runner, special, twitchy, all of that. Our top 4 are locked, Tillman being the 4th. And Cedric Tillman, you can write this down.
I like him a lot.
Cedric Tillman is going to be a very good receiver and a starting receiver for the Browns in 2024. Write that down.
Yep.
In pen. What I'm nervous about, though, is then 5 and 6 and what that looks like. I thought we kind of had that, especially if Goodwin's healthy, lock him in. 6 now, does David Bell have to show something to stay? Or do you say, you know what?
I just don't think that this roster and the stakes, what they are in a razor-thin AFC, I don't think that you can have charity cases.
No, so the question becomes
everybody in the 53's got to be go. You got to go.
Let's say
we can't have patience.
Let's say Grant comes back.
Yeah.
And let's say Jakeem Grant looks very much like Jakeem Grant, who was, a 2-time second-team All-Pro, a 1-time Pro Bowler, 6 return touchdowns in his career.
Right.
If he looks like that guy, that's potentially worth a win. So does he make more sense as your 6th receiver than at that point David Bell, and maybe try to get him to the practice squad? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how the rest of the league views him at this point. But so far what we've seen, a guy who is, under 10 yards a catch as a rookie, and it just doesn't seem like – I thought maybe this year he'd be more – you just see something. You just don't get you don't get the vibe either that, you're going to see. Like Austin Watkins went out there and kind of looked like a dude. Granted, it's against third strings, but guys who are
you should though
good enough to be on rosters should look like dudes. And then a guy who was the Big Ten receiver of the year, you feel like in a game like this where no starters are playing, should be looking really good.
Yeah.
And that was not what we saw.
Off the field, there's a million things going on. You guys had the lights thing that happened in the stadium, and
you
then
heard
the
about
showers
the showers
after.
No showers?
No showers after. Just
no toilets flushed?
Yeah, that's
throughout the game?
That's crazy. Obviously, they have put a lot of time and money into making that area awesome, and they are well on their way.
Yes.
It's an awesome place.
Yep.
The stadium's great.
Yep.
It is. You can see what they're trying to do with making it a football carnival year-round, like it's a summer attraction. Yeah. To me, it's part of. People ask me all the time, "Well, if I come visit you, what are we going to do?" I'm like, "Well, good Lord, what? You want to go to Cedar Point? You want to go to the Rock Hall? You want to go to in the summer? You want to go to Gardens game? You want to go down there, go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?" Like it's one of the things that you say. Like it can be in that mix, but it's a tough night. It's a tough night when you lose electricity and you don't have showers or bathrooms. That's tough. And then there's the other stuff that happened that was out of their control.
I ended up walking through a high school with Jets players trying to find our buses.
Yeah, logistically, it was a very big challenge.
We literally got lost. There were 4 or 5 of us at the end of the night because the team left before the bus we were on because there was no showers.
Yeah.
So they left. We have our equipment bus. They're like, we come out of the tunnel and we're like, where's the bus? And they're like, up the hill. Well, we didn't come in that way.
Yeah.
We go up the hill. We're walking. I realize we're walking with Jets players. Mm-hmm. There's a random guy to the left of me. And he's standing there at just unassuming. He said, "Hey, are you guys with the teams?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to go in this door?" I'm like, "Because nothing good's going to come from this right now, given how this has gone." And next thing, I'm walking down a high school hallway, and we're all like,
Kent McKinley High School.
we're all walking around. We're like, what is going on? And there's no signs. We don't know anything. Yeah. We kind of can hear like a dull roar because they had both teams' buses. Like the Jets' buses were going one way, facing one way in the front. Ours were facing the other way. We finally turn a corner, and it's mass chaos. Like they're like Browns on this side, Jets on this side. Like the Jets
like
travel.
Kids at a fire alarm.
The Jets people are yelling at their players, "Where have you been?" And they're like, "We've been walking around a high school for 20 minutes."
Yeah.
Like there's nothing.
Wow.
What? we were denied entry to the stadium twice yesterday on the team bus.
That's so.
How does that happen?
We were 40 minutes late loading in yesterday.
I don't know how that part happens.
It was a rough day.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic facility.
It is, and the people I dealt with, had some ticketing stuff that I had to deal with, and the people at the hall were awesome. I was actually in line with DTR's mom. She was right in front of me in line, and I thought of her as the second half was going. Like, can you imagine like that moment, like being able to travel out and have that moment for him?
Yeah, there was some of that, even in the stadium. There was a lot of that going from a technical standpoint. Everything we needed, man. Yeah, like they were beautiful. On it. The IT people and like it just the logistics, trying to get into the building and out of the building around it is just
trying.
It's not ideal.
After I did TV at 7:20. I left the set at like 7:25, race back to get in to go up to the booth.
Yeah.
We're going to start pregame at what, 7:45 or
7:50 we were on.
You think 25 minutes, like it's a 7-minute walk at most?
Yeah.
The line to get in the one elevator that takes you to the 6th floor so you can then get in the one elevator that takes you to the 7th floor was 120 people
because they're like suites are below us.
There's one elevator for all of
everything.
Oh, that's not going to work.
So I ended up walking.
It does for a high school game or for like certain showcases, not for the Hall of Fame weekend.
And by the way, I understand them not building a stadium to accommodate
one
night out of 365. Nonetheless, I ended up having to walk into the crowd, up the very steep steps all the way up, and then I was able to get in on that 6th floor, and then I had to take stairs again. Actually, I got in the elevator, wrote it down so that I was on the elevator, and then wrote it back, and then wrote it back up. Yeah, because the elevator that goes to the 7th floor doesn't just go; it also goes down for some reason, even though you can't get it. I don't even understand. You could get it, whatever. Anyway, it was an ordeal. Did see it run into Jeremy from Akron though.
There you go.
So there you go.
There you go.
Made it worth it.
And then you had. So, like, we're driving down 77, and there is a black minivan with the side doors open going 130 miles an hour down 77 headed north. Behind it is 8 police vehicles going 100 miles an hour up 77 north. And I'm like, well, that's clearly not good in any way. Come to find out, and the only reason I knew this is because later on, as we went to leave and head back up 77 north, 77 is closed in both directions. Now, I have never seen a freeway closed in both directions. Never. I mean, I drive the Turnpike every day. I've never seen it closed for hours.
Normally, if they close in both directions, they're landing life flight.
Correct. I've never seen that in all of the driving I've done. And then come to find out, there is a road rage incident. I ended up texting it to you guys. You were on the air. And then I heard you guys talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it was like all of a sudden, like all of the lanes closed. You're getting off at the Akron-Canton Airport exit. You're driving around back roads through Green.
That's what I did.
To come back out through Green.
Like literally all the way
around. Yeah, and you come back out on Massillon. But like,
yes, exactly.
There was not, and I understand it. So then I'm Googling. I'm like, what is going on? So Twitter had it. I found that report. Twitter had it. I mean, a road rage murder.
Yeah.
That closed down 77 in both directions. The assailant is still at large. As of this morning, was not found. Now, what I saw on the way down there was a separate incident of a carjacking
and a chase
with 3 young kids, like ages 6, 5, and 2, where the assailant in this one was dropping kids off along the way. Like, drop the 5- and 6-year-old off in a parking lot, drop the 2-year-old off at a Circle K before they finally got him in Akron. That guy they did get. The second one, as of this morning, was – so all of that was going on, right? And so, like,
there
the
were
boys
a lot
were
of
nervous
sirens
about that. Yeah, there was a ton of sirens. I mean, it's just – now, that's not in anybody's control down there, but that all was kind of happening. So you had this kind of full spectrum of emotion with everything that was going on last night. It was a crazy night in that sense.
Yeah, and there was so much light shown. Well, not the entire game, but so much light shown on the NFL and the Hall of Fame and the great Hall of Famers and the Hoff and all of that. But there was also some, concerning things going on around in the area that you don't want that when you have an event of this
that
nature
type
going
of spotlight on
right.
you. Now, as we're being diverted, I realize that I look down. We're driving my wife's car, and the gas light's on. And I said, I just looked at her and I went. She goes, "Don't even start." I go.
Good as you were getting off.
I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where we're going to see gas.
Once you got to Massillon. Right?
I mean, the fact you weren't stuck on the freeway.
But what I'm worried about is, at any I'm on a single lane road. You're on the same road.
Yes.
What I'm worried about is any point, like if something happens up there and we're stuck and the car's running, for how long do we run out of gas?
Yeah.
So same thing you guys did. We weasel back through green and we come out, and I'm like, I had enough to get home, but I'm like, I'm not chancing this. Like something else. So I pull over at Speedway to get gas. And as I go out to pump the gas, I pull up right next to a gentleman pumping gas at the Speedway. That gentleman was Harry Carson, former Giants great.
Yeah.
And I went, well, that's Hall of Fame weekend.
That's all.
It's all there. The whole thing. And boy, there's more.
Hold on. So Carmen, yesterday.
How is Harry Carson? I go to the boys. I'm like, I understand this has been a really. At one point, I had to tell the boys, like, honest to God, like, Dad doesn't need you to talk right now. Like, I love the questions normally, but right now, let's lock it up. Like, high stress situation here.
Calm it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so. Carmen ends up like trying to get his credential. It ended up being at a middle school. He had to go there, and he hops on this golf cart. And it's like a multi-row like golf cart. He turns around. He's like, Flava Flav's on my golf cart.
Yes.
With a giant clock. He's like, I just got to say, big fan.
How you doing? Flavor of Love. I'm a big Flavor of Love guy.
Oh, my God. Great show.
That was great.
So,
I mean, and that's
it's
the
a
thing.
who's who down there.
It is. You don't know who you're going to stumble into. You will stumble into anyone, sometimes getting out of an elevator. You just don't know what you're going to run into. So it does have it all, and it's a surreal thing to be just, pumping gas next to an NFL great. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that was happening down there, and some of it obviously tragic, and that's just something that just cannot happen. We will get back to the game with Coach. We'll get his
Coach
thoughts.
will be next.
He will be next.
We have a special guest, actually. I'm going to go get out of the lobby.
A special guest out of the lobby.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Yeah, he has himself preseasons. That's what he does. Great hearing Z and the voice and Gerard and all of the broadcasts last night. It was special. It's always better with a win for reaction from the man whose opinion matters most. That is your head coach, Kevin Stefanski. We go to the podium now.
Okay, fun
night
last night for, I think, our fans, for our team, but really started out, it was an incredible day. I was very, very, very lucky to be there for the Jim Brown Memorial, which was unbelievable. I'd encourage everybody, if you weren't there, check out the video of the speakers. It was incredible, unbelievable messages from each one of those speakers, and to spend the time talking about the person
around, even though it's mostly
player.
Backups, but like
that's a
Aaron
fine.
Rodgers is on the field, Deshaun Watson's on the field, like the
Dom, there we go. All right, that's a fine for ESPN Cleveland, guys. We got to dock that one. I was on a roll there. But great day for our organization, for the NFL. I was just, again, humbled to be a part of it. And then into the game, like we talked about last night, was it perfect? No, never is. You got a lot of young players playing for the first time, but I thought the effort was outstanding. I thought all the guys were into it, cheering on their teammates, the guys that weren't playing, so much so that we got a 15-yard penalty or whatever the penalty was at the end. But a good night, a late night, up and at 'em early today. So we got plenty of work to do, and that's the beauty of training camp. It's August 4th. We got work to do, and we'll be back in here working tomorrow morning. With that, I will take any questions.
Thanks, Kevin. Hey, I apologize off the jump if any of this is repetitive from early this morning. Some of us got there a little bit late. As far as DTR last night, you talked about, you were concerned, not concerned, but you were emphasizing his game, calling, managing the game, all those kinds of things, which seemed to go well. In terms of his performance, Kevin, what really stood out to you?
Well, I think the first piece is important, Tom, is for young players to function. It's kind of, you think that's simple, but for quarterbacks and rookies and getting in and out of the huddle, getting in and out of the correct play, run to pass, pass to pass, run to run, those type of things. I thought he did a nice job of operating. And then, as you know, it's fun to see our guys play ball, and you're playing in a game, so it's live. They can tackle you, which doesn't happen in practice. So to see the rush, trying to get home, he made a few plays with his feet. So he did a nice job. There's plenty of stuff to clean up, as you can imagine, and that's definitely what we're prepared to talk to him about tomorrow, along with a bunch of guys. Okay, here's what was really good, and here are the things that we got to clean up.
Kevin, is he beyond your average rookie quarterback, given the amount of starts at UCLA, big program, all those kinds of things?
Yeah, I would say that's certainly one of the things that we were excited about being able to draft Dorian, was how much football he has played in his life and in that college career. I think those, how many times do we talk about banking reps and getting reps in the preseason and getting reps in the off season, and he's one that has played in a lot of games and been in a lot of big ones. So I think all of that serves him well.
Hey, Kevin, just wondering about some of the receivers. First of all, Anthony's first touch didn't go, obviously, Anthony Schwartz, the way that he would have wanted it to. And then Dalen leaves the game with the hamstring, and Jalen was out. So just kind of wondering a little bit about, just the state of some of those younger guys on the receiving corps.
Yeah, some good moments in that game. Obviously disappointing to turn the ball over twice. We turned the ball over on the first play of the drive twice, which was, not very good. And we were fortunate to have the lead there, being -2 in the turnover margin for a long time. So that's definitely going to be a point of emphasis for us, is ball security, both when we're got it as a quarterback or we have it as a ball carrier, tight end, receiver, whatever it may be. As you know, Mary Kay, with wide receivers and training camp, you're going to have guys in and out, and we'll adjust as necessary. You don't like to see anybody go down for any reason, but those are things that we got to just continue to work through here, both on the coaching side and on the personnel side.
Do you have to add anybody? Do you think Dalen will be out a little bit of time?
Yeah, Dalen unfortunately is going to be out, which is, I feel for the kid. He's done so many good things for us over these months, but we'll add some players here over the next couple of days.
When you say out, is that like a week-to-week thing, or do you have any time frame on that?
I don't have a time frame, but it's a significant injury.
Hey, Kevin, Dwan Jones played every offensive snap last night. Was that sort of the game plan coming in to last night with him? And what did you see when you watched his performance that maybe, from what you had seen for training camp to last night, kind of impressed you?
Yeah, I mean, that was the plan. He knew going in he was going to play the whole game, and I thought we got a honest day's work from him. Playing the whole game and not playing football in a little while as you get into training camp and with the heat, I thought he did a nice job. Again, right now we got plans to make some corrections. There were things that he made mistakes, and he also had some great plays, but that's part of certainly being a rookie, but even being a young player and playing in your first game, you're not going to do things. Not many people are getting 100% grades this morning. So that's what we do as coaches. We identify some things that we can correct, but he definitely has the desire to correct all those things.
Hey, Kevin, one more on Dwan. He looked like he wasn't in the best shape when he got to rookie minicamp. So how far have you seen him develop in that area?
Yeah, he's working very, very hard in that department, and I think he's making great strides.
And then with Dorian, a couple protecting your body kind of things. Were you fine with how he threw his body in there on the block? And on one of the scrambles, did he leave himself vulnerable for an extra hit that maybe he didn't need to take on the sideline?
The one that was a penalty?
No, I think it was the one after that, actually.
Yeah, I think we talk about it, Scott, with the quarterbacks when it's time to get down and slide when you can. There's other times where you really can't slide because you're in a crowd and sliding is going to expose your upper body and your torso to some contact. So those are things we'll continue to talk about. It's the first time he's been tackled since December maybe. So just getting back in the rhythm of that, I think, is important.
Hey, Kevin, to just go back to Dalen for a second. I mean, I know he seemed to be making some big plays throughout camp. I know he hung around last year. Just how unfortunate is it when you have a guy who's like in that fight for a roster spot go down with an injury like this?
Yeah, it's no fun, Ashley. You watch these guys. We get to watch all the work that they put in the weight room, in the meeting room, on the practice field, you name it. And Dalen's a guy that's been very diligent in this building. He's a guy that all throughout the month of June, when I popped my head in here, he happened to be in that weight room, and so it's a very unfortunate part of our game, but he'll bounce back. I have no doubt about that, and that's the nature of this game.
And just a clarifying question on the injury in the press box last night. They said hamstring. Is that still what the issue is?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be the one to ask the Cade York question. Kevin, we see him every practice he kicks. It's almost automatic. And then what happened yesterday, almost missed the first PAT also. What's your level of concern? What do you and Bubba think is going on above his shoulders?
Well, I think I see it very similar to all of our players, Tony. I think it's the preseason. It's time to work. It's time to gain valuable experience, both in practice and in the games. But past that, I don't know that's anything for the future that is majorly concerning. He's a young player that's working, and I know he's going to continue to work.
All right, and Austin Watkins, after the game, you seemed quite impressed with what he's done. The fact that he played in the USFL in the spring, he comes in and he looks more polished, perhaps because of that. Is he rising up the charts a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. You go from playing football right into playing football, and you haven't been on the street for a couple of years or a couple of weeks, whatever it may be. So I think he's certainly in playing shape, and his playing speed has been good. He's been impressive in the moments that he's had with us and the game reps and then practice reps. He's done a nice job. So again, he'll get plenty of opportunities with what happens with receivers. As we all know, you lose guys for a day or two or whatever it may be, and the guys that are available will continue to be able to show what they're capable of.
what did you take away from the play of the interior of your defensive line last night? Seems like there's a lot of competition in that group for those reserve roles behind your two starters.
Yeah, again, not perfect, but I thought the effort was definitely there. Guys were getting off the ball, playing physical. Really pleased with really how all 11 were running to the ball. So it's a competitive roster, really 1 through 53, as we know. And certainly there's places where we got a bunch of good players, and that's what this training camp is for. That's what these practices are for the games are for. Let the guys continue to just go show what they can do.
And I want to ask you about Cameron Mitchell. I know he's kind of down on the depth chart, but we've seen him make some splash plays over the last week or so. Just your evaluation of what you've observed from him, and how is he kind of playing his way onto your radar?
Young player, doing a nice job with the reps he's getting. For all of our players, young and old, they're trying to earn a role. And that's what practice is for. That's what the games are for. Cam's done a nice job. He's definitely made some plays on the ball, which is great. He's a very conscientious kid, knows that he's got to be working hard both on defense and on special teams. And I think he's somebody that keeps just continuing to come along.
I was asking about Tony Fields. He seemed pretty busy last night. What kind of game did he have, and how has he come along for you?
Yeah, Tony, again, has played meaningful reps for us over the years and continues to grow. I think played some really good reps last night, plays fast, plays physical, somebody that we feel, continues to get better with reps. And that's really what the preseason is all about.
Hey, Kevin, I want to ask you about a couple other injuries. Looked like Greg left the last practice we were at. Is there anything wrong with him?
He's got a groin issue that he's working through, but he's continuing to rehab.
And you said Tyrone last night wasn't able to go. Is that a long-term thing, or do you expect him back at practice?
Expect him back.
And then lastly, Thomas Graham, that ankle last night, is that a serious thing?
It is. Yeah, that was significant, so we'll work through that as well.
Did you know Jim Brown threw 2 no-hitters at Yankee Stadium?
I found that out yesterday. Averaged 38 points a game in high school basketball without the 3-point shot, which is pretty impressive. So, unbelievable.
There was a lot to take away from that, Kevin. Like you, we were honored also to be there. What really, stuck with you? The very complex man with a pretty extraordinary life.
Yeah, extraordinary just to be able to make an impact in so many areas, to so many people, to so many different types of people, but just the message of human dignity, the message of respecting all people regardless of where they're from, what their race is, what they believe in. It just was an empowering message. I was really not only fortunate to be there myself, but to have our players there, to have some of our guys listening to that. I know it had a very, very profound impact on them.
Kevin, in game 0, you went 1/2 each for QB 3 and 4. Would you do a half for QB 1 and 2 against Washington?
We'll talk through it, Tony, this week. Obviously, as we go into this first game, or this second,
back in 20,
accounting it, we'll always stick to what we're trying to get done in terms of the amount of reps that guys need to get ready for September 10th. So I'll fill you guys in on that as we go. But really, the focus for us is we got a nice 3-day block here of practices in Berea, and then we'll start turning our attention to Washington later in the week.
You're up.
All right, there's your blueprint from Coach following the preseason opener last night down in Canton. When you're on the injured list, get a little help getting back in the game. Call 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Final hour up next. We will hear from the Hoff at some point. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Cleveland Browns 2023 schedule is here. Get your single-in tickets now for all the great matchups at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets to purchase today. In that previous segment, we did hear from Coach on some of the injuries. Z, let's kind of go through where we stand from an injury perspective.
Yeah, for the Browns cornerback Greg Newsome injured his groin during practice on Tuesday. I'm told that it is not significant. There is no concern at all about his availability to open the season. And, in fact, I think there's a good chance that we'll be able to have Greg back working when we go to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. So, obviously, good news there.
When we were there on Tuesday, we were like, where is he?
Yeah,
he was there,
and
then he
gone.
wasn't.
Then he was there.
So that explains it.
And it was initially – he was concerned. He thought I talked to him before the game. He was concerned a little bit. Thought, man, maybe this wasn't going to be so good. But turns out not nearly as bad as initially feared, and that he's going to be absolutely fine. Thomas Graham, ankle injury is serious. Will miss time. Graham's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately, when it all shakes out, ends up on the Browns practice squad. I think Cam Mitchell is starting to. And that's a guy we didn't talk about. This is the draft class.
They did well last night.
Played pretty well. Cam Mitchell is a guy who I think is going to lock down that 6th corner spot. And so you could see Graham and maybe Biggers ending up on the practice squad here with the Browns this year. And then Tyrone Wheatley will be able to practice. Did not play last night with the leg. Browns are going to add another tackle, though. I think we'll get an announcement on that at some point soon because they just need to have that depth. I mean, to play a game with 3 tackles up is wild. And fortunately, that's all they did not need any. They did not have to dip into anything else, but it's unfortunate. When you're going to miss a significant amount of time for these guys, it means the Browns can put them on IR, they can put them on the PUP, they can get them, there are a lot of different ways they can go, but it means that these guys will, and it was a long shot anyway, but Dalen Baldwin and Graham won't be on the initial 53. Perhaps they will ultimately end up on the Browns practice squad there, but something to keep an eye on. And they may make moves. They may waive some guys injured to get, those guys back, and once they clear, then they can just bring them back and put them on IR. So a lot of things still in play there for Thomas Graham and for Dalen Baldwin.
It's interesting. I've heard you say Tyrone Wheatley's name several times now, going back to Greenbrier and now with this injury designation.
It is,
the whole time I'm thinking it's got to be.
It's his son.
It's got to be his kid. Got to be
Tyrone Wheatley.
But he's
Jr.
So far down the roster that it's not. It's down the roster. It's not something that you think about too often. And indeed, yes, fact.
Yeah, started at Michigan, finished his college career at Stony Brook. He was on our practice squad in 2022. Had a great offseason. He got a little bit in that tussle at the end of the Greenbrier practices after the slap and run, which had no casualties.
Where I heard it the first
then
time,
he got,
and I went.
Yeah, he got tangled up with Obo and ended up getting a little injured, so he did not play last night. But yeah, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. of the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, wore number 6. In an era when he was a very big back, and then
huge back.
Remember in those days they had the giant shoulder pads.
Oh yeah,
as well. So he just was hulking.
Yeah, he looked good
in appearance.
Yeah.
All right, so there's where you stand. All right, so you just give us a lay of the land now. You have the preseason home opener Friday.
Yep.
How do you envision the next week going here leading up to that?
So I think, we're going to be this week kind of very much in season mode for really the rest of the way. Obviously, it's still training camp, but you're going to see, I think, things start to ramp up. Those starters will play, I'm told, against the Commanders on Friday night. Then they'll go Sunday. They'll leave that Sunday following the game against Commanders, head to Philly in the evening. Those joint practices will be the work for the starters that week. That game in Philly on Thursday night will feel very much like last night's game.
Yeah.
And then you'll ramp up one more time. The starters will play again in what they're going to consider the final dress rehearsal against the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday, which is the 26th, I want to say, of August. And that'll be the final kind of dress rehearsal. And like I keep telling you, and I'm not trying to run through August at all, but it's going to go fast because it's going to be the Commanders game before you know it. Then we got Philly.
Dude, it's August 4th.
I know.
Not for long.
It's done. August is over.
It's over. We're on September.
Yeah, that's
bring on the Bengals.
It's freezing cold on this side of the room. The air conditioned. We've had to get some ventilation in here because of all the new toys. I'm like, it's cold. Griff's like, preparing you for October, November. I go, don't you steal my August and September yet.
No, we're not. I'm not.
That's
there
a
yet.
fine.
We're not there yet. By the way,
I don't need that.
It's an ice box in there. Like I don't know what
Is
they're
it
doing.
really?
I walk in
It's
sometimes like, what are you guys doing in here?
Like the Letterman studio?
Yeah.
It's like 45
Oh yeah.
degrees.
I was on Letterman.
You were on Letterman. Now that one is taped.
There is tape on. Yeah.
They do tape Letterman.
Yeah,
That's
at
not
5
live
o'clock.
at 11:30.
No, that
one is taped.
That was a tape.
That one was taped. Yeah, the idea being keep the audience awake. Keep them moving.
Smart.
Yeah, and then no sweat for Dave.
Yeah.
But
so
you did need it. I remember when I got the tickets for it through, I was at a CBS affiliate at the time, and they were like, whoever the person, the liaison was, she was like, you're going to want to wear a coat. Like, make sure you have a coat, even if it's in the summer that you have a coat. And so I did, and it was appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't get cold, but it was like 56.
So practice-wise, training camp to the public Sunday, Monday, Wednesday here between now and next Friday. No availability tomorrow. There'll be a workout, but with the Hoff and the induction, I know there's a lot of people from the organization going down. There'll be a workout tomorrow morning with the team. Sunday, we're back to full-blown training camp practice. Monday, same thing. Tuesday's a player off day. Wednesday, full practice.
So
Thursday,
3 public training camp practices, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday?
yes.
Okay.
Thursday, no availability. Obviously, day before a game, you're doing a walkthrough and getting ready. And Friday, the game.
This is, when you think about trying to navigate this camp for Stefanski, for the leadership, for the front office, there's a lot going on here. Because you have multiple different motivations, right? Like you have to get guys ready for the season. That's motivation number one. You have to keep them engaged, and that's how you end up at the Greenbrier for a week.
Yep.
You want to know how good you are, and so that's how you get Philly joint practices for a week, and that's where you're going to get your real work to see, is this roster as good as we think it is? You'll know then if it is or if it is not. That's definitive.
But
Go ahead.
real quick to jump in. Now that we sit here almost a week, Sunday will be a week removed from returning from the Greenbrier. I look at it already differently because I think had we been through 10 days just here and 100%. Then that game and then thinking we got a whole nother week here, it would have felt completely different. 3 weeks here before we went, to Philly. So I look at that now, and I think that it's made this feel fresh. It felt like that game kind of really just came out of nowhere last night. But the guys were clearly ready. The young players who played stepped up. But it makes the next few weeks seem so much more reasonable than had we just been here since July the 22nd in Berea going through about our business. It totally changed it from that standpoint. So I actually think I like it even more as I sit here this afternoon than I did even at the time while we were there. But I think it was a great idea because I think that this would have gotten mundane and monotonous and all of that. And I think being there with a change of scenery, totally different. It almost made coming back here feel new and fresh. And like I said, we're only going to be here for 2 weeks, then Philly again. So we're never going to have – that's what used to wear –
these games are going to come quick now.
Very quick. But that's what used to wear, I think – I don't know about the players, but certainly me. And I don't know, Gibbe, if you felt that way or you did. But when we were here for like 4 straight weeks just in Berea practices, and it was like, okay, all right. Like now it's going to be Greenbrier for, 8-9 days. You got 2 weeks here. Philadelphia, 1 week here, game in Kansas City, and then it's like cuts, season, let's go.
It all makes sense because everything you said makes sense. It's the same thing that like when you were down there, and it was this Friday, it was a week ago, and I said, "Did this work?" And Jake was like, "Well, we won't know if it'll work." And I'm like, "No. We're not going to know if any of training camp works.
I think
the game's at all that
today.
matters." What I'm curious about is, does this feel fresh? Did it feel different? That's what the objective was.
Yes.
I mean, the notion that going to the Greenbrier or not is going to result in wins or losses in September is nonsense. It's nonsense.
Of course.
But what you want is an engaged team. You want something that feels fresh. And in that respect, talking to you guys, talking to the people around, yes, checked every box.
100%.
And I remember saying to you guys, you're going to feel like you're in a football bubble down there because everybody else up here, it was hard to even touch it. There were so few people there. Obviously, there were no fans there. So you had like the beat writers, and then I got all the content from you guys, and then we would do the show. But outside of that, there was nothing around it.
Right.
So it was very fresh, very unique. It felt very much like a camp from here, and I think it did work in the biggest possible way for that reason.
If we were going into our 3rd week in Berea, this would not feel fresh. It would feel like a slog, and it doesn't. It almost feels like, man, this preseason is going to be over before we even know it, and it's the longest one that training camp and preseason that we've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Or certainly in recent memory since the rule changes,
Yeah.
So I think I would at this point call it success because you're like, okay, we got, a practice Sunday, and then we're going to get into it for a couple of days. Then we'll have a game again. Then we're gone again in a whole new fresh environment and fresh situation. So, yeah, I think it makes all the sense in the world.
So you play Friday here, and then Sunday night you travel?
Sunday evening, yep.
Late day Sunday, yeah.
Yeah.
Into Philly.
And then we have practices Monday, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm. Wednesday, day before game, is quiet.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's
Game
just a
Thursday.
walkthrough. Game
Thursday
Thursday
night. So come back that Friday. Will be off.
Oktoberfest, baby.
That Friday will be off, and then you'll be on your
Let's go
preparations for the real dress rehearsal, Kansas City, defending Super Bowl champions, and then that's it.
That'll be the only one that'll feel long. Will be it'll feel long going from playing Thursday night to Saturday at 1.
Yeah.
The next week.
Yeah.
That'll be the only thing that'll feel a little bit.
Especially when you get home after that Thursday night game.
And there's a lot of there. I believe that's the biggest week for training camp practice.
It's the last week.
Mm-hmm. Which in normal situations would not be open to the public. So, like, those to me are the premium training camp sessions because that's where you're going to see the starters.
Yeah, the only problem there is, like, from a kid's perspective, and I always think of it from that, all the kids are in school.
Yeah.
At that. So, like, for the kids, it'll all be next week. Will be their time to try to get in. I think maybe for some schools, maybe the next week.
Yep.
No, you're in Philly, so you won't have any. So
No.
you'll have those 3, and then it's towards the end of the month. So that lays it out a little bit. So we're a couple weeks into this thing, and we were having the conversation about the guys that we liked last night, the rookies. The rookie class had a very nice night across the board. They really did. Some of them, none of them really needed to. They're not in danger of not making rosters. But DTR, I think, changes the conversation a little bit.
He's exactly what the truth is. Like, it was all – this is one of the things where you just had to – I feel like we all knew it. You just had to see it.
Sure, and you'll need to see more of it. But, like, if
he's going to be the number 3.
He's going to be right, and he's going to be hopefully he's the long-term 2 who then also turns into an asset.
Correct.
Where all of a sudden, I mean, Deshaun Watson's the quarterback of the present, the future, all of it.
All of it.
But if he can be somebody who we can develop in our system, now all of a sudden you can flip him for a pick in 2 or 3 years, and now you're talking. Now you're in business.
Sure.
So that's kind of the objective of all this. So that was a big one to me. The guy I was most excited. If DTR plays, then this season has an injury that happened, something like that. I mean, it would be so far. Tillman's the one guy that I wanted to see just the look of him, and I was impressed with what I saw from him.
Yeah, size, speed,
that
his
play
ability. The play on a 3rd and 13. And I had said in the broadcast, actually, I said they're leaving man coverage on the outside. The Jets are playing a lot of man on the outside. I said, let's get the ball to Tillman, and he made a great route while getting held. Just a nice little hand slap, put his foot in the ground, broke back to the ball, and I thought that was really, really good. And what I liked about it is that not only did he do that, he ran the route with the depth so that even when he put his foot in the ground and was going to come back to the ball to catch it, he still was beyond the sticks. Now, that he had made so much separation, didn't matter. He ended up getting 20 yards. But that was one of the things, like, and I'm sure T.C. McCartney will be talking to Thomas Greeny about the rookie tight end out of Albany, who's a long shot to make the roster, but maybe looking to get on the practice squad. He had 2 catches on 3rd downs where he ran his routes kind of right to the sticks. But when you have to come back to the ball, now you're catching it a half yard short. And so we ended up having to punt on both of those situations when if he ran those routes the proper depth, some of that little seasoning, those are first downs. And I thought Tillman to show that just situational awareness and the way that he ran that route was really good.
All right, we've got a lot of fun sound from last night to share with you. You'll hear from the Hoff as well. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The Browns 50/50 raffle is open now. Go to the Browns mobile app or thebrowns5050.com to purchase and learn more. Get your tickets before kickoff of the Browns and Commies on August 11th, and you can take advantage of Joe Thomas special and get 400 tickets for only $73. Don't miss your chance to win big while supporting local youth on that side of things. Did you see the Commies president saying they're not even considering a name change at this point? I don't believe them, but
I thought they said the owner said they were.
You're not on.
I thought the owner said they were.
No, they're well, the owner didn't, like Magic Johnson did.
Right, part of the group.
But part of the group. But the team president, and it could have just been like, not telling the real truth.
That name is awful.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And the brand, I mean, you just would want to divorce yourself from Snyder in all ways. And
Every way.
That does it.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a listen to some of the sound from last night, including Myles Garrett on Jim Schwartz.
He's fire. I mean, he's like fire impersonator. He got that swagger, that passion for the game, and just loves being a kind of coach that players love playing for. You can't find that all around the league. Those guys are a dying breed, and to find someone who fits your style and the kind of guys who really want to play for a guy like that and a coach like that, we have a room full of them. We're excited.
I was talking to somebody about Jim Schwartz yesterday.
Yeah.
And what they told me I thought was really interesting and illuminating, and it's that Jim Schwartz treats everybody on the defense exactly the same. The standard is the standard. He will hold the 8th defensive end to the same standard he holds Myles Garrett to. But it's not just that. It's also he treats that 8th defensive end, and it's genuine, which is why it works. Like, he cares as much about that guy. He will coach that guy as hard as he can so that guy maximizes whatever talent he has and has the best chance to make a life or a career for himself. And he will coach Myles Garrett that same way.
Yeah.
And that has really resonated with the players, that this is somebody who cares about all of us getting better and all of us being as successful as we can be in our careers, and that makes them want to play for him. You see the defense. You see the camaraderie.
Yeah.
Part of that's the Greenbrier. Part of that, I think, is what Jim Schwartz has allowed them to become in terms of letting personalities come out, embracing that, and then, as I said, those relationships he's building with every single person on that defensive side of the ball.
He's just infectious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You could see it, and you saw it last night, I thought, in the performance. I thought you saw it. It was all there for the taking. So when you start getting the ones playing that way, then now you're on to something, certainly. One of the big stories of last night, obviously, was DTR. He was asked last night if he ought to think twice about the block he threw on the touchdown run.
No, that's all instincts. I'm out there playing as hard as I can for my teammates. Coach Stefanski and AVP always preach to run through the football, even on the offensive side of the ball, and being able to pick your brother up. And so that's kind of what that was. I felt was going to cut back and kind of how the hole was going to open up. All he had was one person to be backside, which was the corner, so I figured I'd stick my nose in there real quick.
I love him.
It's awesome, man.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The reaction.
Do.
I mean, Myles, all of us, they were mobbing him. Like, we could have gotten a penalty on that one, too, because they were all on the field celebrating with him there. It was awesome. Great debut. Exactly what you wanted to see from a guy that, and by the way, those are the little things that Andrew Berry does. I don't know how many people remember this, but the Browns had that 5th-round pick to draft Dorian Thompson-Robinson because of the Troy Hill trade a year ago. So that was that pick that they got back from the Rams in exchange for Troy Hill. So just cool debut, cool customer, talented kid, and fun to watch him out there get after it. And you can just see kind of that electricity.
Jim Donovan with a pretty classic Doug Deacon story. Let's have a listen.
Now we've got Joe Thomas, and the Jets have Joe Klecko and Darrelle Revis. Great Doug Deacon story. I said, are you going down over the weekend to see Joe Thomas? He said, absolutely. But I'm also going to see Joe Klecko. And I said, all right, why Joe Klecko? And he said, because I really feel I helped him get into the Hall of Fame.
He went on to say that he thinks there are many people in the Hall of Fame that because of Deke, that got there on Deke's back, which I thought was hysterical.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It'll be great to see Deke up there this weekend.
Yeah, it will be. Will be great to see Deke. And then we have Jim's song. Now I did not hear this. Can you give me a little setup for this?
Yeah, I'll give you a little setup. Things are not going well for the offense. I believe at this point we're down 13-0. We've had the 2 turnovers.
It is second quarter doldrums.
It's end of the
It
second
was
quarter.
I'm rooting for a running clock at this point.
That was squirrely bootsy at that time. He was kind of like,
We had not had much going on, and so Jim was looking, I guess, to lighten the mood, and then out of nowhere, nobody was prepared for this.
No one had it this morning on any of the other stations,
which is
either.
wild.
I'm like, you guys don't have
this
this
the
cut?
full cut? Do we even
this
get?
Is the full cut?
Do you get my?
Yes.
I love it.
all right, let's have a listen.
I was dying.
Tillman goes out far side wide left. 3 receivers below us to the right. The running back is John Kelly. 1st and 10 from their own 44. Here's Mon Giving. Kelly eludes one tackle in the backfield. Then he stretches it right side over the 45 out to the 48-yard line. John Kelly, just a workhorse in the backfield. Reminds me of an Irish song, and I'll perform that right now. Has anyone here seen Kelly? Kelly. Has anybody here seen Kelly? Kelly from the Emerald Isle. It's the first preseason game.
Let's go, baby. That's right. We haven't scored, but our listeners have after that rendition.
That's amazing. So the only point of reference I have on that song is from the DiCaprio Catch Me If You Can.
Yes.
When he's with Martin Sheen and he's trying to pull off the I'm a doctor and a lawyer, and they sing that song at like a family dinner. That's the only, but not as good as Jim just did.
No, incredible.
God bless him. That's beautiful.
That
is great. Hey, that's what you got to do.
Second quarter preseason wasn't good. By the way, the game turned around after that.
And I think at one point, that's probably around the time when I texted you about the screens. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, that was after.
Kellen Mond can throw a screen.
So they threw. We had 5 that were pretty good, and then that 6th one they blew up 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's what I said. The Jets probably like, fool me 5 times, shame on me, but
not a 6th.
Not a 6th time. Sorry,
not having that.
We got that. We got that scouted out now.
All right, we hope to have the Hoff coming up next.
He's ready.
He's
will
ready.
Join us next.
Oh, baby, the Hoff
coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Back by popular demand, your favorite four-legged companion, Year 2 Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dog. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. And now we head out to the Twisted Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisty Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. My gosh. Huff, what are you doing right now?
So right now I'm actually lounging on the shores of the Great Gervasi Vineyard Lake out back, looking across at the location of tomorrow night's party. Just finished up the Ray Nitschke luncheon, and now we got an hour and a half or two before we go and head over to the Gold Jacket dinner.
I hear that lake is slated to become a frolicking swimming pool, bustling of activity on Saturday night.
Yeah, I warned the Gervasi security that, my guests, they're not always well behaved. So if they do go in the lake, we may need some lifeguards on duty because there's no telling what's going to happen after dark at that party on Saturday night.
I think David Hasselhoff should be flown in. It's only appropriate that he would be the
that's
lifeguard
only
for
appropriate.
the Hoff's party.
I feel like the Irv would have somebody
That's
who
right.
he's hanging around with who could maybe serve as some sort of lifeguard as well, Hoff. I mean, you never know.
Hoff, can you say that life is good?
Life is good. It was great to see the playmaker today. He's shown his face hanging around the Hall of Fame weekend down here in Canton, and seeing him at the Nitschke luncheon with his evil laugh was exactly the Irv that I wanted to see.
Hoff, what was that like for you last night when you were introduced and seeing everybody go before you, and then knowing, of course, you're the main event and you get to go last? Take us through that moment.
How humbling was that, right? Like,
awesome.
Everyone got a really nice round of applause, but to walk out there and hear 25,000, felt like all of them Browns fans cheering for you. It gave me an emotion that almost cracked a tear, and it got me a little nervous for what's going to happen on Saturday because I know there's going to be even more people at that enshrinement and even more love, which I can't imagine already. It's been such a surreal experience, not only just meeting the other Hall of Famers and their family, but just seeing the response from Browns fans down here that it's only getting better as we inch closer to that enshrinement on Saturday.
I'll tell you, Jim and I both got goosebumps in the booth.
Amazing.
It was so awesome to hear that ovation, and it was thunderous and so well deserved, Hoff. And I just gotta wonder, what was that like for you to then go back to Annie and the kids? What were your kids like? Whoa, Dad, that was pretty cool.
It was cool. My kids have been through their fair share of football games, and a lot of times they're bored at some point and want to go home. But who would have thought it takes a fourth preseason game before they were like, no, we're not leaving. We do not want to go home. We're having too much fun. They were absorbing every minute of it, and I think that's one of the things you hear from a lot of the Hall of Famers down here. Like, we're so busy, you got so much going on, getting pulled in a million different directions, and you'll enjoy it more the next year. But every time I look at their faces, like right now, he's bugging me because he wants me to charge his Nintendo Switch right now. But I'm on the radio. Leave me alone. But just to look in their faces and see the joy. This is live. We're doing it live. Just to see the joy in their faces is that, like, pinch me moment that I think you sometimes need as you're overwhelmed with all the feelings and all the adulation from all these Browns fans that are down here.
And we've talked about this before, Joe, but obviously you've never been to Hall of Fame weekend because you've always been playing. So this is the first time that you've been involved in this. And you are now about to be inducted officially into, like, the coolest football club in the history of the globe. And you, as you found out, you talked about you run into Irv and you go to the Nitschke luncheon, and yesterday the celebration of life for Jim Brown. Like, NFL legends are everywhere. I mean, the Gold Jackets are everywhere. Yeah. Is that surreal for you? I mean, you are a star among all stars, but still, is that part? What was that like for you? Like, understanding the rooms you're with, deservedly so, but like people who are probably your heroes walking around down there.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, countless heroes and idols. Like I mentioned, we had the Nitschke luncheon today, which was only Hall of Famers allowed in there. Which was, I mean, you don't feel like you belong. You walk in and you look in and you see Marv Levy and Dick Vermeil and Carl Eller, and you see Irv and you see Jerome Bettis, Marcus Allen, Warren Moon. I mean, I think they said there's like 120, 130 guys that have come back for this. I mean, there's basically a third of the guys that are in the Hall of Fame that are here, and all of them were in that room for the Nitschke luncheon. It was really incredible hearing Marv Levy stand up We sang him happy birthday. Almost. He's 98 years old, and he read us a couple poems about the game of football that he had written. I guess he just released a book with a bunch of poems that he's written, and he read us a couple of the poems that he'd written for that book about the game of football. And, I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in that entire place because the themes were amazing, talking about team, talking about how the score doesn't matter if you're willing to sacrifice and give everything for that team. And it hit home seeing the emotion on the faces of the other guys, right? You're looking at your idols, exactly right what you said, and you're seeing all those memories and emotions of a lifetime of football come back in that moment on their faces.
So cool. You're bringing us into an incredibly exclusive moment, lunch, and something that very few people will ever get to experience because they've got to be.
Listen, 400 people ever.
Yeah, right, ever. It's awesome. All right, Hoff, what's been kind of on a fun side of it, somebody that you were thrilled to run into, or maybe a surprise, somebody who came up and showed you respect that, really meant something to you? Because I'm sure it's been a ton of people coming up to you nonstop.
Yeah, I think meeting Dick Butkus this afternoon at the end of the Nitschke luncheon, we were kind of all just filtering out of there, and he was standing there, and so I had a chance to go up and say a few words, and it was just so cool. He even knew who I was, first of all, then started jumping into this story that he told that was fascinating and that I didn't know about. It was the story about why he never got back into football after he retired from the Bears, and how the Bears, maybe you guys know it because I know you guys are great historians of football. If not, you should look it up. Basically, the Bears had him under kind of some type of contract where he couldn't go play anywhere else, and he had a lawsuit against the Bears. And you can imagine in colorful Dick Butkus fashion, there was a lot of F-bombs dropped. It was not exactly safe for the children to be around, but it was just so cool sitting there thinking that, like, in 20 years, I'm going to think back to this moment of Dick Butkus telling me the story of, like, the end of his career and how he ventured down the path into retirement. And it kind of was a little bit of a full circle for me. Obviously, he was the dude at linebacker back in the day, but the other dude, Ray Nitschke, the guy whose luncheon it was named after, was a Green Bay Packer, was one of my dad's heroes as a kid. And I'll put it on my Instagram, Twitter today. There's a picture of me when I was about 12 years old in Milwaukee with my brother, sitting on Ray Nitschke's lap. He did like an autograph signing in Milwaukee. My dad took it to us when we were kids.
Oh, wow.
So there's this great picture of me with like this bowl cut, from like Dumb and Dumber, 12 years old, sitting on Ray Nitschke's lap, thinking about that moment and how far I've come, because that was the year I started playing football, to standing here right now in Canton, Ohio, listening to Dick Butkus tell me about how honored he is that I'm part of the club in the Hall of Fame, part of this team that can never get cut, and hearing him in the most colorful fashion talk about his career and tell stories. It's really surreal. It's impossible to just imagine this is even happening.
Yeah, no one dares to dream that big.
So
you don't.
No.
You're sitting on Ray Nitschke's lap. You don't say, "Oh, we're going to be in a club someday, and we're going to have gold jackets, and my face on a bronze is going to be next to his in the same room." Like, have you and the family been into the hall since you've been down there, Joe?
So we have.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. So yesterday, one of the events we had was right before the game. They closed the hall down and allowed us to do just a private little walkthrough with our families, just wife and kids, and get them an opportunity to kind of see what the Hall of Fame looks like. And they've got my locker up there. They've got, obviously, the space in the Hall of Busts for once we unveil the bust and they go in there. And I was surprised. I mean, it is a football junkie's place.
Oh, yeah.
And, sometimes kids, they have a hard time appreciating what they're looking at, a lot of memorabilia and stuff, but every one of them just loved it. It was hard getting them out of there, and it'll be even more fun bringing them back and be like, hey, you recognize that statue over there? You may know that guy.
So, Hoff, obviously, at some point that Hall of Busts is going to run out of room, and I know that Deion Sanders, you said you're on the team that you can never get cut from. You're in the most exclusive club, but you're in the most exclusive club of the most exclusive club as a first ballot Hall of Famer. 90 of them, I believe, in history. Has there been any talk? Is Deion trying to mobilize some people up here to get this extra wing just for the separate Hall of Fame within the Hall of Fame for the true first ballot guys?
That's funny. So they're actually talking, they're going to do a remodel of the hall. And I don't think they talked specifically about if they're going to have a first ballot wing, but I thought the remodel is going to be really cool. So right when you walk in that rotunda, which is the famous entryway, they're going to make that the Hall of Busts. So right when you walk in, on both sides, that's where everything's going to be. And that's going to be the Hall of Fame. And then the museum portion is going to be on the outside of that. They really wanted to make it, when you walk in, there's reverence, there's a feeling of a sense of place and a sense of history when you walk in and you see those busts, because you guys have seen it. You've been down there. Like when you walk through the Hall of Busts, it's like a reverence of being in a church over in Europe or something. Everyone's quiet. They're whispering. And I think that's the most emotional piece. And so I think for fans of the Hall of Fame to be able to walk in and get that right away before you go and see all the cool memorabilia and the different activations they have, I think is going to be a really neat adjustment that they're going to make.
I couldn't agree with you more on the Hall of Busts thing. I mean, you feel like when you walk up to one of those busts, they are so lifelike, obviously, and the attention to detail is so extreme. It feels like you're looking into the soul of the player. And then you have that interaction where you can go to the video board and play the video of every player who's ever been in. It's unbelievable experience. My kids absolutely loved it. I knew that yours would as well, and I just can't imagine the idea of like a year from now, or even in a month from now, walking in there and seeing the Hoff down on the end. That's just unbelievable.
Especially going to be in that first ballot wing, baby. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. Z, I love it.
It's all right. So you've got the big dinner tonight, just so we understand. You got the big dinner tonight, and then induction tomorrow, and then have a little fun on Saturday night, or maybe a lot of fun Saturday night. I was actually seated in front of some of your buddies from Wisconsin last night at the game, and I think they're ready, Hoff. They're ready.
They are ready. They are ready. They all took off for work. They got in the car. They left the kids at home, and you know how that is.
Yeah.
When the kids are at home,
freedom.
When the cat's away, the mice are playing. And they started last night. We saw a few of them after the game. Had a few pops with them, but I set my alarm like legit on my phone at midnight. And I said in advance, "Hey guys, I'm Irish exiting at midnight. I got to save some juice for the next couple of days." So I'm in good fitness. Other than the voice is a little raggedy, but saving the cigars for Saturday night. So I'm hoping to power through that speech without any problems.
Oh, by the way, that's gonna be like they have a beautiful cigar like room, right? That like cigar bar on the outside. Is that what you're talking about, Hoff?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I know about Hall of Famers that I've learned here in a few days is they like themselves some cigars. Like I was walking outside. I think it was. Oh my gosh!
If the Edgerrin James party was any indication of maybe how some of this one will flow, that will be the place to be. You stand out there in that little cigar bar area that they've got, and that's where, like, all of a sudden I was looking around, and it was Charles Woodson, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Bruce Smith. Like, it was all of a sudden, Peyton, who's the ultimate team, like some guys would be on that ultimate team that the Hoff would be a starting left tackle for. That's where they like to hang out. That's where the action was. That's awesome. Oh, yeah. It
was cool. Today on the way out, we're all staying at the DoubleTree, and it's pretty much Hall of Famers and their family only. And the cool thing about hanging around with these guys is they're all very relaxed because, we're all peers in that hotel, and they don't have to worry about people that maybe shouldn't be there or going to pester guys. And so I walked outside, and I'm about ready to jump in my car, and there's Jack Youngblood. He's standing there. Wow. He's got a Heineken. He's drinking a Heineken and smoking a cigar. He's like, "Hey, congratulations, buddy!" And I'm like, "Really?" So you just chilling outside by the valet, just ripping a cigar at noon. But I guess when you're a Hall of Famer, that's what you do. So once I don't have to worry about my voice getting tarnished, I'm going to be that guy. Me and Jack Youngblood are going to be outside ripping cigars in victory.
There's no place more appropriate for you than sitting next to Jack Youngblood ripping a cigar at noon, buddy. That's perfect. Speech tomorrow. A little. Do you have can you give us a little preview? No spoilers, but maybe just a little preview.
No spoilers. I enjoyed putting the speech together. We actually had the teleprompter practice today, and so it was good going through that. Just having a sense for about how long it was going to be, but I had a few funny jokes that I took out of the speech, but I thought you guys would enjoy when I was up there if I said that, it's a great honor to be here. And unfortunately for Tom Brady, I have a record because I have more playoff losses. He has more playoff losses than I do, but I've protected more quarterbacks than Riddell. So it's been a great career and a lot of fun all along the way. Everybody's got their niche. Everybody does things a little bit differently, has different success and failures in their career. But that's the one thing I got on Tom. He's got more playoff losses, so I feel bad for him. He probably doesn't sleep at night thinking about him.
I think you're right. I'd say put that back in. I mean,
put back in.
I'd say put that back in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, Hoff, man, enjoy it. We know that you will. We're also humbled to even be involved in any sort of way. So it's so great to have you on, our friend, and enjoy this. I know that you will, and let's just hope that Gervasi's still standing by the time we get to Sunday.
Yeah, man, we had to put razor wire around some of the columns so my friends don't try to climb on the ceiling and enjoy the fireworks from the ceiling.
Oh, my God, razor wire. It's unbelievable. It's going to be a scene, man.
Oh,
thanks
man.
for your time, brother. Enjoy
it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Great checking in. Take care.
Hoff, love him.
Yeah,
love him.
The great Joe Thomas, the Hoff.
Like,
they're ready to go. The Wisconsinites are
of course they are. He's ready to go, and that's what's so cool.
Yeah, they're great.
I think what people will take away from his speech is obviously, just the great guy that he is, sense of humor he has, but from the Cleveland standpoint is that he truly wants it to feel like everybody who supports Cleveland Browns, everybody in this area is up there on the stage with him. That's really something that's very important to him. And so when you hear about him wanting to stand out there, I know if you'd have a Heineken, maybe a Coors Light for the Hoff, I feel like might be, or something like that. I could see him just standing there, ripping his cigar. Like, he would love to party with every Browns fan. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. This is going to be an unbelievable weekend, and like, it's just cool that he can also, like, he's telling us what's cool to him, right? Like, oh man, it's so cool to me that, like, Jack Youngblood's out, Dick Butkus is regaling me with his tales.
It's perfect.
It's great.
It's perfect. So much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, that'll about do it for us. Browns fans, enjoy it tomorrow. Joe represents all of you. He's done it with such class and dignity through all the years. This is as much for you guys as it is for him, and he would acknowledge that as well. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow down in Canton. No. Sadly.
It's going to be great. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be
it'd be good.
Epic. Gibbe, I know we don't have CBD, but don't count on much from me from Sunday, and I will not count on much from you.
Fair trade.
They told me I had to work Sunday. I said, great, I'll be sleeping underneath this desk. Come and get me. About 2 o'clock.
The next level is up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.